Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has identified three pressure points for India: fuel, fertilizer, and foreign exchange. She explained that there's no cause for panic and cautioned against propaganda. But one can't deny that there are real vulnerabilities. This is Quick Take, your quick guide. I'm Smita Prakash. India imports most of its crude oil, so every spike in oil prices hits three places: inflation, current account deficit, and the rupee. The rupee recently touched the record lows near 97 rupees to the dollar before recovering to around 95.23 rupees after crude softened and the RBI stepped in. The first risk is fuel. India is the world's third largest oil importer and consumer, and the West Asian crisis has disrupted supply routes. Crude prices has moved close to $98 a barrel, and India is already diversifying crude purchases towards Africa and Latin America. The second risk is fertilizer. If global prices rise, the government either lets farmers pay more or absorbs the shock through subsidy. Reports suggest that the fertilizer subsidy bill could rise by about 70,000 crore rupees, taking it to around 2.41 lakh crore in FY27. Some estimates warn it may cross 3 lakh crore rupees if the crisis persists. India is not fully self-sufficient in fertilizer production because the problem is not just factory capacity. India has increased domestic urea production and now meets roughly 75 to 80% of its urea demand locally. But even that production depends heavily on imported natural gas from the Gulf. Fertilizers like DAP that India imports, 50 to 60% is imported, and domestic reserves are also limited. Potash is even bigger vulnerability. India imports almost 100% of its requirement because it has no major commercial potash reserves. In other words, even made in India fertilizers often contains imported gas, ammonia, or minerals. The current situation would improve significantly if the Strait of Hormuz opens up fully and shipping normalizes. Hormuz is critical not only for oil but also for LNG, ammonia, urea, and phosphate shipments coming from the Gulf. A reopening would reduce freight and insurance costs, stabilize LNG supply for Indian urea plants, ease pressure on global fertilizer prices, and reduce fears of shortages ahead of sowing season. But it would not completely solve the problem because India's dependence itself is structural. Even with open sea lanes, India would still remain exposed to global gas prices, geopolitical tensions, and supply concentration in a few countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Morocco, and Russia. The third risk is foreign exchange. India's forex reserves are still large, around $689 billion as of May 15, 2026. But they're not unlimited, so should the central bank defend the rupee? The consensus is that it should defend stability, not a number. Burning reserves to protect a psychological level like say 95 or 100 is bad economics, say some economists. But allowing a free fall is also risky because oil, fertilizer, and imported goods become more expensive. So the answer is let the rupee adjust gradually, but stop speculation and panic, which isn't easy. We have a free media and access to international media too, and there are experts galore. India's fundamentals are not collapsing. Inflation is still moderate with April CPI at 3.48%. But the warning is clear. Fuel, fertilizer, and forex are India's external shock absorbers. If West Asia burns longer, India pays more at the petrol pump, at the farms and fields, and through the rupee. Not every analysis is a cynical narrative against India. Almost every country is going through a stress test due to the West Asia crisis. India too. It's a test of India's resilience, and the smartest response is not denial, it is preparation.